Hello. In this video, I wanted to talk about what I like and dislike about digital drawing. I think every medium has a lot of potential, no matter what it is, and I think there's a lot of benefits to digital drawing. One would be rapid iteration, and that I know that I feel like I can practice a lot of drawing a lot faster, and I feel like I don't have to waste like a ton of paper. Granted, I am using energy of some sort because it's what's powering my computer, my tablet. The other thing is the expense. Like I feel like a good quality digital drawing tablet is really expensive. I mean, I saved up certain money. Like I put off money to the side for years to save up for a tablet. I have a Wacom 24-inch. I also have a job, so like that helped me. I mean, be able to afford it, of course, but like I don't think I would have been able to do that when I was in university or even like uh, grade school, just because like I just feel like it's a lot of money. It would take up so long to save up for that. Even like working on the weekends, I used to work. When I was in high school, I used to work for fast food, and yeah, that it doesn't pay a lot. I mean, considering I can only work on the weekends, so it takes a long time to really save up a good chunk of money for that, and that is just a downside to digital drawing. I mean, you can use other cheaper tablets. I would say go for it. The other thing is finding a good drawing program. I'm using Paint Tool Sai. I like it. There's no monthly expense to it, and I kind of always felt like drawing in a roster, drawing with like pixels. I feel like not having to pay for that every month as a subscription. I do like that. It makes me feel like I do want to save money. I did think about going the Adobe way, but it's so expensive, and I'm trying to save everything I can, considering the economy and all that, and it's just something that I'm trying to that you really want to think about, because like you need to ask yourself, can you afford the subscription every month if you're going with Adobe or whatever paint program. My question is, are you really using all the tools to justify that expense? Like, I mean, I guess there may always be an exception, and it may be worth it. But in my opinion, I felt like a lot of these industry standards, everyone tries to position their software as the industry standard to the point that they say, "Oh, you can't even draw unless you have A, B, and C," and it's just like, or soft A, B, and C software, and it's just like it's so ridiculous. I mean, things could help you greatly, but nothing is end all be all. Or maybe I said that backwards. But another benefit of digital drawing is all of the tools. Like if you look where my mouse is to the left, there's just so many tools you can use. But the funny thing is, considering how I try to focus on drawing all the time, I pretty much just use the pencil. So I mean, I do that because I'm practicing. I would say professionals, they're probably painting and using a bunch of the other effects. So I would say to you people out there who are paying for it, um, ask yourself, how many tools are you using? I mean, it's ultimately up to you. Like if you can afford it, go for it. But you know, always ask yourself, what are your main goals? Maybe these are your starter years, and you could get away with just paper and pencil. Or do you kind of understand what I mean by that? I mean, there's like trade offs to everything you're going to do. And the other thing I've always found weird is like scale when it comes to digital drawing. When you have paper, it's laid out in front of you, and like yeah, you can put your face closer to it, but you're always kind of dealing with that. Uh, like with digital, like this is 50%, and it's like it's always very confusing to understand what scale you're drawing at, unless you look in the settings. I'm pretty sure different programs would list that, and I found it always very It's always very weird because obviously you can change the resolution, which I believe has to do with DPI. So like you're painting in pixels. You're not really painting in any type of like physical material. Like let's say like if you were to print it, you're going to be constrained to some resolution. And I want to say even here pixel inch, whether you're going inches or centimeters. I should have stuck to centimeters. I like dealing with centimeters better than inches. But I guess you could always be aware of the things if you want to print it. The other thing to know is when you're dealing with raster or pixels, whatever you're drawing in, you're going to be kind of hard set to it, and you're not going to have a fun time downsizing it. You may run into issues with that. That's why there are other programs that focus on vector, but I feel like with vector, you can't always freehand or you can't always draw in a free-handed way to the extent that you want to. A thing that I found is I feel like drawing programs won't make you like I think they could really help you iterate faster, but only your practice and you can make yourself a better drawer. Like all of the tools here also have stabilizers, but one thing that I've been sticking to is turning stabilizers off. The reason why I do that is because I feel like they kind of lie when I'm doing a stroke. Like, I don't mean to say it's cheating, because obviously all of these are tools, and if you're doing this professionally and you need to get paid, I'd say that that's the most important thing to do. But when I'm personally trying to get more experience, I like my flaws to show, because I'm really trying to gain drawing confidence in everything I do. Now, the other thing is, if you came from, like, traditional medium and came to digital, like, it is pretty much like learning to draw again. Like, I'm going to be, like, 100% honest. Like, when you're dealing with nibs, which are pretty much at the end of your stylus, you can't see my stylus here, but basically there's a nib on the end of it, and I've realized they last about 3 months or so. I don't put too much pressure when I draw on my tablet, but I always do check the point of it. So, I mean, the nibs are really cheap, but just know that like you do have that expense as well. I mean, when I bought them, I bought a bunch in bulk, which like will probably last forever. But I did that. It's just like another little thing to keep in mind. What else could I talk about? Digital. The other thing is painting. Like if you did want to do any type of painting, I feel like the tools like they're really trying hard to emulate. They're trying to emulate traditional medium, and I've seen some people do really cool things with it. So it's just my opinion when I say this, but I feel like if you were to really be interested in painting, it may be better to try to go to traditional medium, because I think dealing with like the bristles of a brush, I mean, it's just a totally different experience. I don't mean that as an insult to any digital artists, but I think that it's kind of taming like a totally different medium. Like it's just dealing with like layers, like you actually feel those layers. With digital everything, you only really see those layers, and you could also add those layers, which is a massive benefit. I mean, like the amount of times that I've screwed up, I mean, the fact that I can just use Control Z to undo something, I mean, it's absolutely nuts. Considering like I just drew with a pencil for years, and I would just like go through paper like there's no tomorrow. But yeah, I think the important thing is don't let digital try to hide your mistakes, because I think your mistakes are kind of like a monster that if you hide it now and you don't know it, it will like come back to eat you in the future. But I think the important thing is if you at least know that it's kind of hiding certain flaws you may have with drawing, I think that's the better perspective to go with it. Like, if that makes sense, like, just be aware of what's happening. But another thing I found is I feel like the medium you practice in is the medium you get best in. Like the closest to the closest to your reality that you can get to, or to your medium, is the best way to practice. Like if I wanted to be like a person does nothing but sketching with a pencil and shading with like a pencil. Um, I mean, I would just do it with a pencil, rather than like trying to do it digitally. Like, I wouldn't do a bunch of practice. Like, okay, I wouldn't do a bunch of practice like uh, painting digitally and then expecting to be able to go into the traditional painting without any issue whatsoever. Like, I think that's another really important thing to keep in mind. Like, if you want to be a digital artist, know that you want to be a digital artist. Practice in the medium that most interests you. It could also be worthwhile to expand your horizons for like what you want to do. Like, the other thing is, I'm pretty sure I never have dealt with watercolors before, but I'm pretty confident that when you do deal with watercolors, it's a different monster. It is working a bit. But when you are dealing with like all these different mediums, kind of have what I like to call like you doing it the first time is going to feel like you're painting whatever in that medium or drawing whatever in that medium is from scratch. So, I'd say try it at least once. Even if you don't like it, you may learn something, or you may not. But I think the learning factor is always extremely important. Me personally, I'm not exactly sure. I wanted to learn more about going into in-depth detail. I want to do more like flower studies, and like I thought about doing it digitally. I think I will, and then like I want to do like a comparison of some of my work in which I go digital, then I go using a pencil, and seeing how they go side by side. You know, because I think it would be an interesting standpoint to see. Because like I've been doing nothing but digital drawing. I mean, it's a lot easier for me, but I've been doing nothing but digital drawing, and I just wonder, like, does it hurt my traditional drawing in any way? Will it help my traditional drawing in any way? Does my muscle memory from ghosting lines transfer over, or even bugs for that matter? Have I gotten too used to undoing my work with Control Z that like maybe I'm not being careful enough with my lines when I lay a line? So that's like another thing to really keep in mind. The other thing, another big thing is what I said, the ease of using colors. I mean, I feel like with certain traditional mediums like oil painting, you spend a big chunk of time trying to find the right colors or mixing to get the right colors, and I think that could be a fun experience, but maybe not to everyone. I mean, if you look at what some of the older artists, like the masters, use, like the Dutch masters of fine art, or all those other famous people, uh, they they custom made a lot of the stuff they did, like everything to stretching the canvas they were going to use, to making their own brushes, to finding probably their own compounds to make paints. They probably dealt with a lot of toxic chemicals, like stuff that's toxic to the touch. I can only guess. I think maybe like Cinnabar. If you know what Cinnabar is, I think it can get that red color. Cinnabar, I think it's like a mineral compound, and I know it contains lead. So like, I'm pretty sure like it's bad to touch lead with your hands because I think it seeps through your skin. Don't quote me on that, but if you get the point. Like, in this day and age, luckily, we don't have to deal with as many toxic chemicals, or I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of these chemicals in paints are probably toxic in one way or another, and they're not meant to be like eaten. But I'm not sure how bad they'll be if you get them on your skin. But yeah, just keeping all of these things in mind. Like, I would say always try to know what you're getting into before you do it. The other thing is, the downside to digital is if you're in an area that may lose power. I don't know if you're like in an area that surges or something like that. If you don't have that internet, you won't be able to draw for a day. So always have a pencil nearby. I think in one of my past videos, I may have accidentally sworn because my power went out, and it scared me because like when my power goes out in my room, let's just say I've lost some work in the past that I was doing because my power went out, and my computer is a desktop computer, So when it went out, I lost it all. So over time, I eventually got backups. I mean, they only last for about like 15 minutes or so, but it's enough for me to like perhaps save my work or to end a video. And it scared me, and I swear, or yeah, I just like swore, and that is another thing to keep in mind. The reason why I say that is, okay, in some instances it may come back on immediately, but other times, like, it may be the weekend and I may be planning to draw all day, and oh, the power's out. I'm not gonna have power for 24 hours or 48 hours. And I'm like, well, I just don't like. I want to draw still, so luckily I'm smart enough to have a lantern. I have a lantern, and I would use my lantern to draw. And I got one that like, how do I say it? It has lights on all sides, so you could really see. Like, I do recommend. It was cheap. I do recommend you get something like that, because other lanterns may only have one direction of light, and it may not be the best for you. Or you may be able to get away with it, or maybe it's daytime and you could just go outside. But all good things to be aware of. I don't know. I feel like I just talk from painful experience. I mean, it wasn't really that painful. I just didn't have a lantern at the time, so I didn't really have any light source besides my phone, which I didn't want to burn through. But yeah, always important things to keep in mind. I mean, you could always do a little bit of both if you want. Like me personally, I've been really trying to focus on making videos, so I haven't really had the time to do traditional, but I really want to set some time aside and get back into it. So the other benefit I would say of digital drawing is there are so many art programs out there, it can be confusing which ones to know and use. I highly recommend that if you're starting out, just find one and stick to it. I think they're all very similar. They may have different stabilizers. I mean, heck, I feel like you can get away with Microsoft Paint if you wanted to, but I will say, I feel like my lines are extremely smooth in Paint Tool SAI compared to Microsoft Paint, just because I have the density of pixel clusters that I lay down are a bit more. But I think with Microsoft Paint, it's just you're laying down one pixel at a time, so it looks a lot more pixelated. Like, all of these lines are pixelated the closer you look to them, but there's like an anti-aliasing effect going on when it draws them to make them more smooth, and that's a benefit of the program itself to implement that algorithm to do it when I draw it. But yeah, I think I think you can get away with less if you want to. But if you want to use another program, go ahead. Maybe it's worth to try it. The one thing to know is with a regular traditional paper and pencil, you can just draw right away. But whenever you go into a new paint program, I feel like you have to learn. Like, it takes a good chunk of time to learn all the stuff of that paint program, and then I think you eventually get into we're creatures of habit, so you eventually just get used to dealing with that one program, and then you may not want to go to any other program, or you try another program and it's like, oh, this program doesn't have the same shortcuts that I'm used to, I hate it, stuff like that. So, but I feel like with traditional medium, like, I feel like paper is always paper. Well, I guess I'm wrong on that, because you could be dealing with different levels of coarse paper. Like, there's a difference between like drawing on a palette paper, or like canvas paper, compared to like printer paper. It's a lot more canvas paper is a lot more gritty, I want to say. I think like sketchbook paper could be even more different, in which it's more difficult to draw with like very fine pencils compared to pencils that are like higher thickness and millimeter of the lead. So yeah, there are just so many trade-offs to it all, but I guess you have to try a lot to really find what you like. But yeah, all I would say is don't stop drawing, and don't let that stop you drawing. But yeah, I hope this kind of gives you some insight, and I hope it doesn't seem like I was just ranting. I wanted to give you some useful advice. I mean, the cost, I think traditional is going to be a lot more affordable for you to start off with. Granted, sharing your work with people with that is a lot more complicated because you either have to scan it with a computer scanner or you have to take a picture with your phone compared to digital, in which you could just go to file export into whatever file format you want to. And that makes things a lot more easy to deal with, I must say. So, yeah. Yeah, if you have any questions, please ask in the comments. Maybe I could clarify something about digital drawing that you may be wondering. I mean, I don't know everything, but I feel like I know a couple things. I've been doing this for about 2 years. I don't deal with color. I just have been drawing with a pencil tool. I don't know. I'm really trying to get my technical skills up, so that's something I'm always focusing on. And yeah, if you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. And if you like this video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. But yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.